holds true today. Tonight, we're going to talk about something that helps us preserve peace and prevent war: nuclear weapons. We don't exactly love nuclear weapons, but they have been around for many years, and they've become an integral part of the United States national security. Without them, that security is harmed. So I present to you the resolution we hereby resolve: the fulfillment of global nuclear disarmament would be detrimental to United States national security. For clarification, by disarmament, we're referring to the destruction and disposal of all nuclear stockpiles around the globe. By fulfillment, we mean that at some point in time over the next several years, this process will be completed. We're going to look at U.S. security after that point. In regards to security, we're not talking about our feeling or our perception of our security. We're referring to the ability of the U.S. to deter war, to defend itself, and to prevent the loss of American lives. Simply put, we're going to show you that disarmament harms our security. Now, to do this, we're going to lay out the benefits that we lose in the event of disarmament. First is deterrence. Once we've lost nuclear arms, our ability to deter war goes down. We've also lost influence over other nations, particularly those that would possibly be enemies. And thirdly, it's more difficult to prevent the use and development of chemical and biological weapons. Lastly, we're going into unknown territory, and with that comes risks to our security. Those are the realities of a world without nuclear weapons. First, let's talk about deterrence, how it works, and how it benefits our security. A prime component of deterrence is the concept called mutual assured destruction. Basically, this means that with the 1,000 plus nuclear warheads the United States has, we can ensure the destruction of any country that tries to attack us. Unlike any other weapon, our nuclear arms have the unique ability to assure mutual destruction. Based on game theory, the best option is always to come to a compromise. Attacking will always result in defeat, so war is no longer feasible. For example, since 1945, no country has dared to declare war against the United States. One of the reasons Russia and China are still our allies is because war is no longer a good option. North Korea, for example, has been held at bay for many years by the nuclear powers, including the U.S., that protect South Korea. In 1973, Egypt and Syria invaded the Sinai Peninsula, then controlled by Israel. They were very careful not to attack the parts that were under U.S. nuclear control. Now, take away that deterrence, and our opponents regain the possibility of winning. World War I, World War II, two of the costliest wars in human history, were fought for dominion and control. Reducing our deterrent capability will ultimately put us in a greater risk for war, and greater risk for American casualties. Think about how the nature of wars has changed over the last 50 years. The use of total war, where civilian resources are dedicated to the war effort, is no longer in existence. Proxy wars have taken the place of old wars. Without deterrence, we lose stability. Violence becomes easier and less politically costly. A study by the East Asia Foundation showed that the presence of nuclear powers contribute to the stability of countries in Asia, such as South Korea and China. If that stability decreases, American military forces will have to be reallocated abroad. One of the good things about nuclear deterrence is that it curbs research and development of biological and chemical agents. The United States, along with other major powers, has significantly reduced spending on development of new weapons of mass destruction. Upon signing the Non-Proliferation Treaty, China, Russia, and other nuclear powers agreed to ban production of any and all biological and chemical weapons. These weapons are a larger risk to our security because they are more likely to be used. Because those nations have a nuclear deterrent, they can focus on peacekeeping operations rather than weapons development. I'm not saying that China and Russia are going to build biological weapons as soon as they disarm. But, as history shows, major powers are willing to develop new weapons if deterrents aren't in place. Let's look at the countries we know that have chemical weapons, or how this affects them. Albania, India, Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia, Libya, North Korea, Russia, Iraq, Serbia, Syria, Israel, and Japan. Almost all of the countries that developed chemical weapons are ones that did not have a nuclear deterrent. Most of the countries that now have nuclear weapons or are protected by nuclear power are in the process of destroying their chemical weapons. There is a difference between nuclear weapons and others. With nuclear weapons, we can assure mutual destruction. We know exactly what they do. Chemical weapons, on the other hand, range from moderate damage to poisoning our natural water resources. Biological weapons range from sickness to worldwide epidemic. Because the outcomes of these weapons do not assure mutual destruction, they are not effective deterrents, and they are far more risky. We've seen how nuclear weapons can function as a deterrent to war and weapons development. Now let's look at why they help the U.S. maintain power and influence the military actions of other countries. Just like in any game, the stronger, faster players will have an advantage over others. Similarly, the U.S. currently has a supreme military advantage over other countries that are perhaps not so willing to cooperate. With nuclear weapons, countries like Korea, Iran, and Afghanistan are more likely to work peacefully with the United States. We continue to influence negotiations between North Korea and South Korea to this day. On the other side is a disarmed world. The United States no longer has a nuclear advantage. Its arsenal has been reduced to conventional weapons, which are more likely to be used, and other countries have gained bargaining power as a result. If countries want to go against the wishes of the U.S., develop new chemical or biological weapons, use those weapons, or harbor terrorists, there are fewer potential consequences. The Security Council no longer holds summits on nuclear strategy. Japan, Turkey, and South Korea will no longer be able to rely on the U.S. nuclear umbrella. More of our soldiers and resources will have to be dedicated to these regions in order to preserve peace. Not only that, but these regions are more prone to develop larger conventional armies, which in turn are more likely to be used. Our next speaker is going to go into more detail about the concessions the United States would have to make after disarmament. In the end, you have to look at how nuclear weapons help maintain security and what new risks we have after disarmament. The United States is currently in a stable situation. War against us is highly unlikely, and we have a huge bargaining chip when it comes to negotiations. We have a good gauge of when we need to intervene in smaller conflicts. On the other hand, disarmament is uncharted territory. You've opened up a whole new can of worms. Major powers of the world have just had to change their military strategies drastically. The actions of our enemies become less predictable, not more predictable. What we do know for sure is that we have lost an advantage by losing nuclear weapons. It is more difficult to deter war, and we've lost a huge bargaining chip. Our security suffers for those reasons. I strongly urge you to affirm this resolution.